Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be looking at the second game of the Samsung Cup final that happened a few days ago between KeJie and Shin. This is definitely the most important game recently that pretty much all Go players have been watching. So I've definitely looked at several sources. In Chinese, I'm pretty sure in Korean, in Japanese, there's a lot of people talking about this game as well. So I decided to make a sort of an official English commentary on Game 2. The reason that I'm talking about Game 2, obviously, as we have all seen, tragically in the first game, Shin lost the game because of a misclick. So that was very tragic. Yeah, I just hope that doesn't happen too much in the future. Today we'll be looking at a very, very fierce and probably one of the best games of the year. That is their Game 2. KeJie is playing as black and Shin playing as white. The game starts out very normally. KeJie decided to play a small knight enclosure, which is kind of rare in today's sort of games. So the next move from KeJie, I really liked it. It's the small knight. I personally would play the jump, but I learned a lot from KeJie. Or I'd say I learned a lot from AI, right? This is an AI product. The difference being that when black plays the small knight, the formation is very solid for black. The only sort of downside is the fact that black plays a move on the second line, but the benefits are several. First, white no longer has forcing moves to push here, because this is going to be a gote. And secondly, mostly because leaves less problems in the corner, because in some of the old variations, white can actually just attach here. White can actually make use of black's weaknesses and actually gain compensation in the corner. So to prevent all that, I highly recommend all my viewers, I definitely will play this move more myself as well in official games, right? I would actually play a small knight. So the solidity is actually more important in this case. So in the actual game, white follows up by expanding the moyo. So at this point, when white plays small knight, locally this is territory versus influence. The game keeps going. We have to move a little bit faster. There's nothing really impressive. Well, it's not impressive, but rather nothing too unusual in the opening. Both players have played quite normally from here on. So this move I really liked. It's very consistent with the idea of building moyo. A more or less inconsistent move, which is also a good move, is like this invasion. This is actually how I would have played. But obviously, Shin is so much better than I am, so he's very consistent with this move. This is also an AI move, but it's especially good because it's consistent with moyo ideas. The game keeps going, and this is something I talked about in my Josekis. Atari here and the extend, always worth a move. So always play this out in your game, or don't miss out on this big move. So next, white decides invade, and there's a common variation. Back in the days, obviously, this has been the Joseki or textbook type of move for black. But I think this is a little bit weak from black, mostly because it leaves two cutting points, and then white is able to get the territory. So you can actually learn from KeJie today is that you don't have to extend at d6, rather you can connect at e7. makes your group a lot more solid. And Shin decided to start a fight right away because black did not connect properly. A direct push and cut. Very aggressive. And I think this game, at this point, Shin is definitely very, very happy because he is a very good fighter. His reading is absolutely crazy. I'd say I personally think his reading is a little bit better than KeJie, mostly because of his hard work just on life and death and stuff like that. So now KeJie follows up by Hane here. That's an excellent move, making sure white has very tight liberties. The next move is also excellent, and white decides to cut at b5. So we have the first very exciting fight starting. Black Ataris, and then Shin decides to extend at a5. Of course, if black plays this one, that's more like a amateur player playing, right? So we can tell with this shape, the future is very dark for black, basically. So at this point, white can pretty much just, white can just block here. And then the future looks so dark for these guys. So right now, if you turn here, so actually I have to be careful here, right? Even KeJie plays like this, there's still a lot of tricks not going on. So if I actually play like that, I don't know. I might just actually lost the game because actually, you know what? White is gonna resign here. So make sure you don't play mistakes like this. Rather, the correct move is for you to keep pushing, extending your liberties. If black cuts, we can obviously Atari once and then come back. So that doesn't work for black. If black keeps extending, now we can block over here. Black pretty much has to hop into the corner and hope for the best, but I mean, this is just very, very difficult. After this, black is going to be dead inside, and obviously expecting KeJie to play like this as black is just daydreaming. So KeJie follows up with the correct move, that is the Atari, and then descend. White follows up by Ataring on the top, on the outside, and then capture the stone at b6. Black connects. So here, obviously, if white plays out this variation, that's not going to happen because when black plays this one, this is a losing game for white because when black captures over here, white has basically no way out of this one. So the compensation that white gets over here by capturing 2 stones is not going to compensate for all the loss over here. So white cannot cut here. That's why in the actual game you see what Shin has played, and then both players decided to go for just settling down. Next move, KeJie Hanes. Obviously, white needs to respond to this because if white does not respond to this, for example, if white plays somewhere else, black has a flip Atari and then pull the stone back. So here, if white wants to prevent black playing b8, white has to cut, but unfortunately black can Atari from the outside. And white can just not get there on time. So that's a absolute sente. And that's just not something that Shin can miss in the game. So Shin takes the stone, that's the correct move, and then KeJie follows up by getting himself out and also destroying the Moyo. The game keeps going. They decided to exchange a couple moves in the left lower corner, and then Shin decided to further expand the Moyo or strengthen the Moyo. Both players So at this point, a AI recommended move is to actually hop down here. This is very clean and clear move. It's trying to disconnect the two groups for black here. And then also the connection towards itself is a lot more secure. What Shin played in the actual game is slightly worse because at this point, hoping that KeJie plays out like this is just not reasonable because KeJie is the #1 in the world, and counterattack is just not something that KeJie can miss, right? Like I would emphasize counterattack a lot in my videos, but for KeJie, this is just it's just something in his blood, right? As the best player in the world. So they exchange a couple moves. These moves are very, very tactical, involves a lot of reading. So here actually the best move is for white to cut over here. And this gets very, very complicated. Black follows up by playing this kind of moves, and then white is able to play out like this, right? So this should be the continuation for white, and this is probably the best continuation for white. Black obviously cannot connect because we can tell that black is going to lose the liberty fight by 1. But what Shin actually played in the game was okay. Black connected, and then after a couple moves we can tell that Shin was able to cut B9 stone off and get himself home, while black is also okay because black gained a huge wall over here, meaning that these guys are pretty much just destroyed. They're very hurt, and also black leaves a very, very big move, that is to play C14. This is a move that's definitely worth more than 20 points, a lot more than 20 points. Well, actually, let's see why this is worth so much, because if let's say black plays somewhere else, white can actually connect the stone back. When black double Ataris, white can Atari here, forcing black to capture, and then white is going to flip Atari at A14. As we can tell, later on, white has this as the continuation. That means that black's corner is significantly smaller, right? If we compare what happens when black actually gets this, this is actually very, very big, right? Like black is able to secure all this territory. Huge move that both players are aiming at. All right, so the game keeps going. KeJie jumps out. This is not for saving these 4 guys because these 4 guys are already dead. When white wedges here, this is more of a double DGQ problem. Black has no way out. Black cannot try to come out. So then they follow up with a few moves. Shin decided to play an excellent move at L10, strengthening both Moyos at the same time. KeJie hops in for an invasion, and then another fight broke out. So at this point, when KeJie plays the Tiger's Mouth, because immediately going for this is not going to work, white can Atari, black has no way out. That's why black has to fix the cutting point first, and KeJie decided to play Q11. And next move, we can see the tremendous or the monstrous reading skills from Shin, right? This is a great move that even AI did not detect in the actual game. And this is a lot of fantastic reading. So for example, if black cuts over here, white is going to basically follow up with this move. When black pushes down, white can actually connect through. Oh, sorry. Actually, I have to be very careful with the reading here. So if, say for example, black pushes here, white is going to Atari from the outside actually, forcing black to play this one, and then white is going to connect underneath. So it looks very confusing, but actually you can verify that black is dead. If black Atari is here, white is just gonna have one more liberty. If black plays this one, we're left with a double DigiQ problem. If black takes, we can snap back. So yeah, white Ataring here is very important. At this point, if black plays this one, it's the same result. There's always this, there's always this snapback. So yeah, the reading here is very, very important, which is why that explains you why KeJie cannot cut over here. Instead, KeJie decided to make a tiger's mouth in trying to come out. When white connects, black decided to give up because running towards the center is too dangerous. Not to say the next move white can block here, and these two guys are just killed. So KeJie decided to save these two guys first. And then when Shin plays this one, this flower over here is essentially killed, right? Because running out is just impossible at this point. So next move, KeJie follows up by trying to split this group off. And then after a few moves, white decided that, or Shin decided to actually make sure that these three guys are in danger again. So KeJie quickly make use of the dead stones over here, gained a few extra moves, and then he decided to push out and to make sure that these guys are going to live. So after a few great moves, KeJie decided to further strengthen. There's really need to live this dragon because white is too thick everywhere. So Shin plays another beautiful move, squeeze at L7, making sure that this group is under pressure. All these moves requires a lot of reading, actually, but I don't really think I have all the time to go into the reading part. Or maybe for some parts, the level of play is too high for me. So, and then we can tell finally at this point, white was able to connect the B15 stone. This is a great, this is a huge move that that was looked at by both players. Both players had wanted to play this move, but they really did not have time in the process. Finally, Shin got this move back, so he's very, very happy, obviously, and this is a lot of points going on. So after a few other moves, both players were ready to go into the endgame stage. So these moves are all very nice, shows a lot of skills from both players. And then white secures the 5 stones over here, making sure they're killed. Making sure also this stone is also killed. So at this point, the game becomes very, very close. This game requires a lot of difficult endgames. Black decided to turn here, and this is actually a great move. But before this turn over here, Black should have exchanged a few things. The first thing is to play the turn at F2. If white captures, black is gonna Atari here. White absolutely has to respond to this, right? If white does not respond to this, black is not even gonna play this, allowing you to make a ko, right? Black actually has a Tsuji that is to just play this one, and these guys are killed. So that forces white to play this, and then black needs to make another exchange, forcing white to basically connect these guys back. And then if KeJie turns over here, this is a very close game that is probably slightly better for KeJie. in the actual game, KeJie did not exchange the f2 as well as the p18. He just directly played the turn over here. Shin now pushes here, squeezing the liberty of this group, and then KeJie decided to turn at f2 at the worst time possible, right? This is a very, this is actually the biggest mistake that KeJie has played in the game. When Shin plays this one, well, what KeJie was planning was that if you play this one, then I can, just add a move over here, and black is going to be fine. But actually, after very careful reading, Shin decided to just turn at k7. And then KeJie is in trouble because it might not look like KeJie is in trouble, but let's just see a couple more moves. Is at this point, we see very weird stuff. KeJie decided to play this one, letting Shin take, and then he plans another move inside his territory, letting Shin take another one, and then he decided to go live. So that's a huge loss of points for KeJie at this point. But actually, all of this is just inevitable. Because if black connects over here, basically white can connect. Obviously, black has to connect these 5 guys back. And now, instead of trying to save his own group, Shin can actually enclose black and go for a liberty fight. And this is just a very, very bad situation. Because you play this one, this entire dragon becomes like a ko. So that just tells you that at this point, KeJie can no longer even connect these 2 guys. And that's a huge loss. So at this point, KeJie had to make this move to actually make himself alive. And then when Shin connect these guys back, they exchange a couple more moves, and then another move, and then a few more moves, forcing KeJie to block here. So these are all very good endgame moves. And then at this point, this is a crucial point for Shin, is that at this point, if Shin had just played this move at J12, this is a absolute winning game for a player like Shin Jin-seo, right? At his level, if you just play this move, making sure there's nothing going on in the center, this should be a total winning game because white is going to be winning by, more than, I'd say more than 1 point, right? It's not going to be a 0.5 game. So that's a lot easier for Shin to manage. What Shin actually played in the game was very greedy. He wants to exchange this move and then come back and play the tiger's mouth. But it's at this exact moment that KeJie sensed the chance to come back in the game and actually squeeze here at J13. So in the actual game, Shin decided to wedge here. But isn't that so normal for us to just block at J14? Shin did not block at J14, and that shows you the monstrous reading that Shin actually has. Well, as well as KeJie, his reading is also absolutely fantastic. The problem with this is that at this point, black has a Tsuji at G14. When this wedge comes out, that means these 3 guys are pretty much dead. So for example, if white plays this one, black is going to push out. The only way for white to prevent black from going back is to block, but then black can cut over here. If white connects over here, black drags the stone back, and then that's game over immediately because these guys are dead, and that's just too much. But obviously, if white tries to take this, black is going to connect back. And now, as we can tell, the loss over here for white is just too much, right? white definitely lost these two guys. So here, basically, white needs to connect, spend another move, because if you don't connect, black is going to connect, and these guys are still dead. So if white captures, we can tell that the loss over here is also very, very big for Shin. That shows you that this Atari is not going to work. What about this one? If you play this one, black is going to pull the stone back. The only way for you to save these guys is to connect back here. And then here, black can connect at J12. That's another forcing move. White has no choice if he wants to actually just get himself back home. Black is going to Atari, forcing white to connect. And then here, black can push in the center. When white blocks here, black is going to cut over here. And this looks like a very beautiful shape. When white Ataris, black Ataris, white Ataris, black Ataris. And then at the end of all these Ataris, it looks like it's white who's getting, white is getting killed everywhere. These two groups, they're both dead. So very interesting shape over here that requires quite a lot of reading. So Shin, after reading this wedge at G14, he is in total panic. I'd say he's definitely feeling very, very stressed out at this point after seeing a Tsuji like this. So in the actual game, Shin decided to wedge. So they decided to go for this variation. And we can tell at the end of the variation, black was able to gain these two guys in Sente. And then black cuts at G17, getting the territory back here. So the game kept going. It's still a very, very close game because white was able to actually make a push over here, gaining a little bit compensation. Also by connecting this F15 stone here, but obviously KeJie was able to gain a lot back with the exchange over here. So after all, this is definitely still a very close game where white still has many chances. When black takes back, there's quite a lot of co-threats for, I guess, for white. So white is not going to lose this co because there's so many co-threats over here. Right? And Atari, there's a warehouse of co-threats going on here. And then here, at this point, KeJie quickly connected this stone back. This is absolutely a huge, huge end game to play. And then after a few exchanges, I think the last mistake for Shin is to actually connect at P18. So here Shin has a very good chance, that is to take at D14. This is a huge move because it secures the point at A15 and A16 as well as A13. Even the point at A12. So there's a lot of points, including 2 captures over here. The biggest move on the board right now. Obviously, this ko is very, very big. The good thing is white is able to hold it with all these co-threats. So in the actual game, Shin connecting at P18, that is a very, very bad idea, because when you can actually hold this co-threat, actually hold this ko with your threats, you don't have to connect it back. Rather, you should grab the biggest endgame on the board. And at the point when KeJie connected at D14, very unfortunately for Shin, this is a 0.5 losing game. And there's pretty much no chance to come back, because it might seem like something, I mean, as amateur players, we'd lose the game anyway, right? Like at this point, playing either side. But for players at their level, it's very, very hard for Shin to actually come back. So I'm gonna stop the review over here. I think the remaining moves are mostly endgames, and they are very, very easy for both players. And I think the highlight of the game is actually really at the end game, right? Like, obviously there are a few very interesting fights at the beginning, but at this point, had Shin just, captured this could still be a winning game for Shinjin Seo. Unfortunately, he did not do that, and then he finally lost the game by 0.5 at the very end. So this game has been a very, very difficult game for both players because of how technical everything is. There's a lot of fights, there's a lot of complicated endgames as well. So it's definitely a very, very good game, probably one of the best games of the year for both players who are the number 1 and the number 2 in the world. This, I think they both have shown us how good they are in this game. Most of their moves are very accurate. There are very few mistakes in their play. So right now I feel a little bit, just tragic for Shin, right? Had him not made a misclick in the first game, we could have seen actually at least two very, very, top-notch games. But I mean, it is what it is. A tournament is a tournament. You cannot take a move back, and yeah, that's just something that, I mean, every player knows that you cannot take a move back, right? When you're playing games. So I guess it's tragic, but it happens. But I'm very glad they actually played out such a high level game in game 2, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. So thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. For now, I'll see you in the next video.